Welcome back, students. We are going to do Science 24, Unit C, Lesson 4, Innate Defense. So we're still talking about your immune system, right? So what we're going to do is talk about your physical defenses and how your body prevents infection by pathogens. For example, your skin, mucous membranes, tears, saliva, digestive system. Also, we're going to talk about the role of blood and how it helps control pathogens. So we'll talk about white blood cells. Antibodies will actually come up in the next lesson. So what we're going to talk about are your two basic defense systems. The first one is called your innate or non-specific defense system. The other one's called your adaptive or specific defense system. This one we will talk about in the next lesson. So here's what we're talking about today. External barricades and internal defenses like white blood cells. Okay, let's talk about the innate defenses. So your first line of defense, it's basically like a wall. It keeps things out or it quietly neutralizes pathogens, germs, viruses. So your skin is really like walls around a castle. It's basically just a physical barrier. It's a wall, right? That's what your skin does. So if you watch my little animations here, so there's our castle wall. That's our skin. And rocks get thrown by the bad guys. They just bounce off the walls. Just like your skin. So an invader might try to get in, but unless you have a cut on your skin, that thing can't get in. If he can't get in, you can't get sick. So skin is your first physical barrier. Next one, we have mucous membranes. You know what? I showed this to my wife, and she goes, "Is that you?" No, that's not me. Anyway, oh my goodness. So mucous membranes, you have mucus for a reason. So you think it's kind of gross and everything. Got to wipe your nose and stuff. But actually, mucus is important because we have openings into our body. So our skin is like a wall, but we have openings. Look, there's an opening. There's an opening. That dude's got a lot of hairs in that nose. But you know what? Nose hairs are actually good for something. Check this out. So there's a little bacteria trying to get in. The nose hairs sort of block it, right? Now, bacteria is actually a lot smaller than that, but really for dust and dirt and things like that, nose hairs can actually trap those things. They act sort of like a net. And then, of course, if something does get past the nose hairs, so let's say a little bacterium slips by and gets in your nose, you go, achoo, blow your nose, and you might trap some of the virus or the bacteria in the mucus and prevent it from getting too far in your body. So that's really disgusting, right? But it was helpful. It prevented the pathogen, this bacteria, from getting in. Now your stomach has acid in it as well. Now, I think sometimes we confuse stomach acid as part of digestion, and it does a little bit, but stomach acid is not really for digestion. Digestion really happens in the small intestine, right? Once food gets spit into the small intestine and off it goes, that's where digestion happens. So, what's the role of stomach acid? Well, stomach acid is really there to trap anything that does get past your mucus and down your throat. And once it's there, the acid can kill it. Okay? So that's important. Next one. Also, your saliva and your eye fluid has enzymes in it. So when a bad bacteria gets into your mouth, under your tongue, or on your eye, you've got this enzyme that even though the bacteria gets there, you can destroy it. Okay, so here's how lysozyme works. Lysozyme is an enzyme. And what it does is it will touch the bacterium and it can then puncture the cell wall of the bacterium, and then the cell will eventually die. So there's some of the cellular fluids leaking out. That cell's going to die. Okay, I showed it exploding in the last clip, but that's what's going on. And earwax acts the same way. Earwax traps the bad guys so they can't get into your ear. Okay, so those are physical defenses. What if something does get past your physical defenses? Then what? Well, that's the next step. So we have white blood cells, and there's a broad term for the ones we're going to talk about here. These are phagocytes, they're called. And their name means to eat. Phagocyte, to eat. So these white blood cells eat the bad guys. So these get complicated, these terms, but these are neutrophils. Think of these guys as suicide bombers. Okay? So what they do, what that means is they eat the bad guys and then they self-destruct. And their dead bodies become pus. So if you've ever seen a cut, you get a cut and this white stuff starts forming around it a couple days later. That was white blood cells killing bad guys that got in and killing pathogens, bacteria, viruses, and then self-destructing, and then their dead bodies, their remains are dead white blood cells, and that's pus. Okay? There's another one called a macrophage, and that means big eaters. So they do it a little differently. They grab onto invaders with these like little arms, cytoplasmic extensions, and then they spit out their dead body. So they don't blow up themselves. They just spit out the dead body. Okay? All right, so let's clean that up and let's look at the animation. You can see the red blood cells there. Red blood cells are what carry oxygen around the body. They're donut shaped. The other one there is a white blood cell. So we're going to talk about that one as a neutrophil right now. Okay, so we know that cells travel throughout the body or throughout the bloodstream. Now, we got a cut. And if we get a cut, a bad guy can get in, right? If the bad guys get in, now we got a problem. We got to defend against the bad guys. So, red blood cells, off they go. If they get out, that's called bleeding. And then our white blood cells come in, our neutrophils. And look what they do. They swallow up the bad guy. And then they basically commit suicide. They blow up themselves and they turn into pus. So that pile of white stuff there is dead neutrophils that killed themselves. But they took out the bad guys too. Okay? All right. Let's talk about macrophages. Macrophages are a little different. They don't kill themselves. They grab onto the bad guy, pull him in, kill him, spit him back out. Okay? So those are two types of white blood cells. I know my graphic looks the same. I used the same picture, but they're a little different, right? A neutrophil is a little different than a macrophage. Okay, now we have natural killer cells. Natural born killers. I think that was a movie when I was a kid. These are interesting. Look what they do. These kill your own cells. Like, why would they kill your own cells? If they become infected or cancerous. Okay. Now, I'll explain this and I'll show you the pictures. Healthy cells have proteins on their surface, and the protein we're going to talk about is MHC1, major histocompatibility complex. Okay, all you have to know is it's a marker, a protein marker on the outside of a cell. But an infected cell does not have that protein. It stops making it. So the natural killer cell can detect that protein, if it's there or not. If it's not there, it pokes the cell with an enzyme, which triggers cell death, which is really like a self-destruct button. So the natural killer cell doesn't kill itself. It goes around and kills sick cells. Okay? So there is a healthy cell in your body. Now remember, we talked about that, the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And when we talked about that in the other unit, we said it makes protein. Now, we didn't go much into it there, but MHC1 is a protein. So watch this. So the endoplasmic reticulum starts making this protein, and this protein appears as a marker on the outside of the cell. So that is the MHC1 marker. It's made out of protein made by the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay? All right, now, this is what healthy cells look like. We'll say that those are the healthy cells. They all have the MHC1 marker on them. Nice, healthy looking marker. So they're all healthy cells. They've got their MHC1 marker. Life is good. And then maybe a virus comes in. When a virus gets inside a healthy cell, it tells that cell to stop doing what it was programmed to do and to obey its orders now. So he moves in and he says, here's what you're going to do, cell. You're going to stop what you were doing and you're going to make my babies. So it makes all of these little virus cells, makes all these little viruses. And then something interesting happens though, because the virus tells the cell to make its children, to reproduce itself, it forgets to tell the cell to continue making MHC1 marker. So the marker actually disappears. So now, this is cool. Look what natural killer cells do. So that sends off its little babies to do more bad, nasty work. And a natural killer cell comes along. And this is what its job is. Its job is just to check cells. Oh, it's got the marker. That's a healthy cell. Let's go to the next one. It's got the marker, healthy cell. It's got the marker, healthy cell. Oh, where's the marker? What the heck? The cell doesn't have a marker. This cell is not healthy. Stabs it, shoots an enzyme in, and boom, we kill that cell. So that cell was one of your cells, which is why when you get a virus, you feel sick because your body's running around like kind of killing its own cells, but those cells aren't good anymore because they're making little virus babies. Okay? All right, so that's the natural killer cell. All right, and the last thing is your body has another defense mechanism. It's simply called a fever, when your body gets hot. A fever is your body's way of heating up the entire environment, turning up the heat. Hopefully that kills invaders that are sensitive to temperatures. So a normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. What if you got a bacteria or a virus in your body that died at 39 degrees Celsius? Well, your body could get hot. It rises from 37 to 38, 39, and whatever's at 39, it kills it. Now, if your body's temperature gets too high, then you got a problem because your own cells are in danger at 40.5 degrees Celsius. So that's why when you're really sick and you go to the hospital, or you're sick at home and your mom takes your temperature, they're trying to make sure you're not above 40 degrees Celsius. Because if you're above 40, you're now so hot that you're actually damaging your own cells all at once, like just killing everything, right? So that's not good. So they pack you in ice or put you in an ice bath and try to bring your temperature down, right? Okay, I believe that is it. Yes, that's the end. There's an assignment to do, so hopefully you learned what you need to in that lesson, and good luck with the assignment.